Hello, I'm back here in the workshop. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I've got this work on paper that I'd like to frame up. Usually I work on board, but this time I just worked on a primed paper. And it's a little bit tricky now that I have to frame it because I need to mount it onto something solid. So I've got this piece of primed up plywood that was going to be a painting, but I think it's probably best put to use as a backing board for that paperwork. Also plan on knocking apart this frame that I'd already made because it didn't work out. It wasn't very square, unfortunately. So I'm going to just reuse what I've got here and sort of bash it apart and use that as the frame for the work on paper. So I'm just going to document as I go along, as I kind of figure this out. I hope you enjoy the process. So I think I'm going to start by just marking up how this board needs to be cut. So I've cut the panel on the bandsaw. I ended up cutting it to the exact same dimensions as the paper, or as close as I could get it. Okay, so what I've got here is just a big piece of mat board that I often use, just whenever I need an instant clean surface. I've got newspaper, which might be handy, and I've cut open this plastic packaging to use as a non-stick surface to when I do my gluing. So we'll see how all this goes. It's a bit of trial and error. Here it is all stacked up with books. What I'm going to get onto next is bashing apart this frame so I can reuse it. It's time to get into some demolition. These are the pieces that I've just taken apart out of that old frame. I should be able to reuse everything. I'm going to have to recut miters, of course, because they got a little bit messed up in that process. I think I'll reattach the internal framework if it proves to be the height that I require for my panel to sit on, and these corner braces will go back in as well. So the work that I prepared yesterday, the painting on paper that's now mounted to board, has been drying overnight. Now I'm a bit nervous about this. We'll see how it looks. It's looking good. Now I'm just going to get this newspaper out from underneath because I think it'll give us a clearer view. That's looking pretty flat. Pretty happy with that. So this is ready to be mounted into a float frame with those pieces I reclaimed yesterday. I just noticed that some of them have these D-rings still on, so I'm going to take them off before I make my new cuts. So I like to do this next part on the ground because I can look down onto the work and get a sense of the symmetry of the shadow gap and the wideness of that gap. I tend to just do this bit by eye, but I do use this tool to help me mark out the 45-degree angles. Otherwise I get really confused and cut them wrong. So I'm going to just get into that. So you can see how I've sort of made it so that there's a roughly 1 centimeter shadow gap here. And what I'm going to do is just come down to this end and draw a 45-degree angle that will meet that exact corner point. So it's coming together here. Now that I've got a long side and a short side and I'm pretty happy with the spacing, I'm just going to copy those measurements onto the remaining pieces and make the cuts. So I've got it all strapped up with the corner strap on, and despite appearances, it's nowhere near square. I've just measured across the diagonals and found quite a discrepancy. So I'm going to take you through how to sort that out. When I measure this one way, I get 78.6. When I measure the other way, I get 79.3. What I'm going to do is fix off the bottom. So I need to affect this, so I think I'll actually move it this way. Let's see how that goes. What are we looking at now? 79. And very close to 79 that way too. This is all fixed in place now as weights. I've just used some brass bits that were in the workshop. So this just needs to dry like this. That should help a lot. Something I will do is recut the miters on these just to neaten them up. So these were the bracings from the original frame, and while this is all being squared up, it'd be really great to get those in there just to help lock everything together. So those corner braces are in now. They're just glued at the moment, but I will put some V-nails in when that's dry. I just don't want to play with it too much while it's all drying and got those weights on. V-nails are just a really simple angled nail, I suppose, that you can hammer in to secure your corners. You just get them online from a framing supply store. You can use a tool to put them in, but I don't bother. I just hammer them in. Now I'm just going to flip this over and put a few V-nails into the corners at the back of my frame as well. Ideally using bigger V-nails would be better, but I've run out of the big kind, so I've got these littler ones at the moment. So I'm ready to start painting inside the frame now, and I'll just take you through how I do that. I buy a decent quality acrylic paint for this, and what I do is I just thin it down with water to make a bit of a stain. all painted up now and it's ready for one final sand. Once it's dry, I'll come back and I'll do that all in one go. I'll do the front of the frame and the side edges as well, and give the back a sand too, just to neaten that up. Well, here it is all sanded. It's not much to look at this stage. It's a bit ugly with all its insides showing. This is just the internal framework that allows me to float the panel in there. I have to reattach the bits that go on these end pieces. I knocked them apart when I was getting the wood salvaged out of that old frame. I'll punch these nails down later and fill the gap with a bit of matching putty. And I didn't realise when I was cutting this piece, but I think perhaps when I was knocking apart the other frame, I might have damaged this, so that's another area that I'll also fill in this. So I'm ready to position the artwork in place now, and what I'm going to do is just give it a good squeeze of glue, just PVA glue. So I'll just take you in a little closer and show you some of the bits that didn't work out so well. So I did get my alignment wrong when I was putting the paper down onto the board. You can just see 2 mils of board showing there. It gets better as it goes up and then it happens again at the top here. The other side's great though. We just have a quick look at how the patch-up job has turned out. So this was where I was patching up the nails in the top of the painting, and you'll remember there was an area of damage at the bottom edge too, and that's been patched up pretty well. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this simple and inexpensive way to frame a work on paper. Working on paper is just a really great way to get started. You don't need expensive materials, and as you've seen, you can make the work and just fit a frame later. If you're curious about how I made this painting, then check out the video in the link below, which actually shows me at work. And don't forget to subscribe for future DIY content. See you next time.